Hello, my name is Kim Howe. We are happy that you are interested in learning more about moving beyond the page. Our curriculum covers language arts, science, and social studies. This presentation will provide you with an overview of our social studies program. As with science and language arts, we are very intentional in our approach to social studies, and we want you to have an understanding not only of what we do, but also why we do it. The goal of our social studies program is to develop students that are able to think critically about the world, learn from the past, understand the present, and create a better tomorrow. We believe that the social studies units we have designed will provide students with the strong foundation they need to understand the world in which they live, both past and present. Parents often ask us, what is social studies and how is it different from history? This question highlights what we see as a shortcoming of many homeschool curricula. There is often a focus on history that occurs to the exclusion of the other social studies disciplines. By aligning our curriculum with state and national standards, Moving Beyond the Page covers a comprehensive body of knowledge that has been established by experts in the field, educators, historians, and scientists. As you will see, however, this does not mean that we teach these standards using traditional methods. Social studies is an umbrella term that encompasses the fields of geography, history, government, culture, citizenship, and economics. As you can see, history is only one aspect of a well-rounded social studies curriculum. What may not be obvious is that the true value of a history program cannot be attained without the other disciplines. The value of a history program is not in the ability to recall facts and dates from memory. We believe children must develop an understanding and appreciation for the forces and cycles that have shaped our past. Most of these forces are incomprehensible to young students. Young children need to develop a basic understanding of economics, government, citizenship, geography, and culture before they can appreciate and learn from history. Moving Beyond the Page integrates social studies and language arts. This best practice helps bring social studies to life for children and helps them to truly understand the time periods and cultures they are studying. The truth is, children learn through story. We all do. Children remember the characters, their struggles and accomplishments, and the historical, cultural context of a story. This is not possible in a sequential description of events, names, and dates found in most history textbooks. The integration of social studies with language arts is a hallmark of Moving Beyond the Page curriculum that you will not find in any other homeschool program. When students study history and culture in social studies, their language arts program will center around historical fiction novels with characters living in the time period or location. This approach helps bring to life the time period for the child, increasing both retention and interest. Now we will take a closer look at two different elements of social studies, culture and history. Historical events, names, and dates have very little relevance aside from a basic understanding of the culture being studied. By studying modern cultures around the world in the elementary years, children are better able to understand that people around the world live differently and face different challenges, yet there are commonalities that we all share. Through these cultural studies, students also learn the geographic locations, different forms of government, and the varying habitats and weather. A basic understanding of these topics will aid in deeper understanding once children begin a study of ancient cultures. Through the study of culture, students will ask questions such as, what are people in Asia really like? What would it be like to grow up in Africa? What is important to a culture? How are the people of a culture unique, and what can we learn from them? These are important ideas to discuss so that children become aware of the similarities and differences among people in the United States and abroad. Analyzing the culture of people in other parts of the globe can look very different from just looking at the history of other cultures. Now let's turn to our approach to teaching history. Many history programs seem to be more concerned with covering broad time periods and memorizing facts than creating thinkers that learn from the past and question decisions. Moving Beyond the Page takes a very different approach to history. We want children to understand the why questions of history rather than simply memorizing what happened. The difference in our approach shows itself early in our curriculum. Many homeschool programs have young children in first or second grade studying hundreds or even thousands of years of ancient history. The trouble with this approach is that history is an abstract concept that cognitive psychologists tell us is difficult for young children to comprehend. Dr. Brandy Camp of the National Association for the Education of Young Children had this to say about teaching first graders about the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Teachers have legitimately questioned whether this content is more appropriate for older children and whether the limited time in first grade is better spent on other fundamental learning. 6-year-olds will have difficulty fully understanding this content. 5, 6, and 7-year-olds may be able to memorize the facts, but they will not understand the historical context. At best, a young child will be able to recall what may be an impressive amount of base-level knowledge. But how can a child really understand a bartering system without a basic understanding of economics, goods and services, and monetary systems? How can a child really have an understanding of an ancient culture? How and why the citizens lived the way they did, without a basic understanding of what makes up a community, rules and laws, citizenship, customs, religion, and government? How can a young child developmentally understand when a historical time period occurred, when many really do think their own parents are ancient in the scheme of the world? This is in addition to the fact that recorded history can be incredibly violent and disturbing, and can be inappropriate for young children. During the early elementary years, we should be doing all we can to shield our young children from war, cruelty, and other atrocities that are covered in most history texts. In the early years of Moving Beyond the Page, we start with the local community, introduce the basic economic principles of goods and services, discuss how workers in the community contribute to the well-being of the community, encourage the understanding of natural and human resources, and discuss responsibilities and citizens. Once this foundation is laid, we begin to look at different types of communities and cultures in different parts of the world. Children begin to understand that people around the world have similarities and differences. These conceptual understandings will provide the firm foundation required to fully comprehend and appreciate ancient cultures in future years. In the younger levels of Moving Beyond the Page, we capitalize on the opportunity to build this strong foundation. This will make the historical time periods covered in later years much more meaningful, and will give children the tools they need to think critically about the events and people they study. Once a foundation in social studies is laid, we begin a chronological survey of American history. This survey begins in the 8 to 10 level with a study of Native Americans and early explorers. And the 9 to 11 level, the survey continues with units on colonization and the Revolution, westward expansion, and immigration. At the age 10 to 12 level, the survey of American history wraps up with a study of slavery and the Civil War, the World Wars, and civil rights. Once children are in the upper elementary years, they are able to benefit from this chronological approach to history. At the end of the 10 to 12 level, we kick off the next phase of our history program. This is a look at ancient civilizations. During this phase of our history program, children will take a chronological look at the history of many civilizations, from the Americas to Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, and on to Asia, Australia, and Oceania. We want children to understand not just what happened in the history of each civilization, but also to understand what was happening in other civilizations at the same time. To accomplish this goal, children will use a timeline of ancient civilizations. As they go through each unit, they will place color-coded cards on a timeline. When they are finished, they will be able to see how the different civilizations progressed in relation to one another. The color of the cards will indicate which civilization the card is referencing. Moving Beyond the Page history will look different from a traditional textbook approach. We believe in the adage that coverage can become the enemy of understanding. This point is emphasized in much of the research surrounding curriculum development. The more information you try to cover, the less deeply you are able to delve into the heart of the issues. It is more important to understand the motivations of people and governments, cycles of power, and historical themes than to simply get through all the facts. Teach for depth, not breadth. We believe that Moving Beyond the Page provides children with a solid understanding of geography, culture, citizenship, and economics. This will equip them with the tools they need to analyze history. It will be natural for the child to look at the role that economics played in early America and the Civil War, and what it meant for the forefathers to establish a democracy. They will be able to geographically understand from where the early explorers, colonists, and slaves came, because they have a solid background in geography. Social studies is not a synonym for history. It is a way of looking at factors that have shaped and continue to shape societies around the world. History is a very important component of social studies. However, the study of economics, government, and geography are the tools needed to fully understand and appreciate history, as well as our own country.